Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an election that happened in Nebraska last night on Tuesday, talking about what it means, talk about what my takes are for what this result, kind of showed us, and just in general what we should expect to see in the future. So, yeah, this was just the name, a Nebraska election would be, sounds like kind of a snoozer, it's a Seaton, Nebraska doesn't even have Omaha, so it's like you'd think it's a pretty Republican area, wouldn't really be worth watching, and I think that's what most people, including myself, in fairness, expected. And here we are in the race. Kind of came down to the wire. The GOP did hold it, much to the relief of the Republicans. They did hold the seat. They won it by 4.6, or they're ahead by 4.6%, with about 95% of the vote being reported. There were a couple of votes left out. There might be 1,000. I mean, probably a little more. Probably two and a half, 3,000 votes. They're probably going to break GOP. And probably 60%, 70% will vote for Flood. So at the end of the day, he might win by around 5% instead of 4.5. But again, this is a pretty close result for Nebraska. It's actually an underperformance. If you look at what happened in this district in 2020, the lines have changed. So we'll talk about that in a second. But if you look what happened in 2020, Jeff Fortenberry, the Republican, won by 22%. And his district did get, I think, 2% redder. Like when you look at the seat, he won in a Trump plus, I think, 14 seat in 2020. They made his seat go from Trump plus 14 to Trump plus 11. So it did get a bit redder. But it didn't really, it did get a bit bluer, but it didn't really swing to the GOP that much. Like the lines changed, but they didn't really make it change too much, if that makes sense. It got only but 2% more Democratic, so it wasn't like this drastic, big change that endangered the Republican Party in this district. No, this was a seat that was Trump plus 11, and the GOP only won it by under 5%. So, there's all this talk of a red wave, and we're saying, oh well, the Democrats are going to get crushed this midterm. Like when you look at there was a lot of talk about that special election in Texas from earlier this month, where Mayra Flores ended up defeating Dan Sanchez to flip the seat for the GOP. And I was saying, look, guys, it's an impressive victory. Congrats to Mayra Flores. I think this certainly does reflect what I'm saying about South Texas trending towards the Republicans, but the Democrats got outspent here 34-1. Dan Sanchez, he fought hard, but I don't think he was a good candidate. The Republicans really gave it all for Flores, and they won by 7% overall. So it was a strong showing for them. But people were expecting a 10, 15-point win for the Republicans, and despite all the fundraising advantages they had, and despite everything they had going for them, the terrible turnout too, which was this election had a much better turnout than the Texas election too, by the way. So it's more of an indicator. And when you look at all that, the GOP winning by 7 shouldn't have come as to as big of a surprise as anyone, because it was rated as I had it as likely Republican. I had the GOP winning by 8. They won by 7. So, it's kind of a race where you'd expect the GOP to do well, and they did do well. And people were saying, oh, it's proof for a red wave. But I'm like, guys, we knew this yesterday. Nothing has changed. And I'm saying the same with this election. People are going to look at this election and say, wow, the Democrats did very well. I'm like, yeah, I think you can take that away from it if you want to. And I'll talk about that in a second. But it's a special election. No one outside of people who spend too much time on Twitter are going to be reading into this election. I don't think that the Republican Party is looking at this and being like, okay, guys, so we're kind of screwed because we underperformed in one election in Nebraska. No, I'll be very blunt here. I think that if you're extrapolating data from one special election in Nebraska, or if you did the same with Texas a few weeks ago, you're misunderstanding how this works. If you went back to April or May of 2020, where it was Christy Smith and Mike Garcia, and Garcia flipped a seat in suburban Los Angeles, and you were saying that, oh, California is going to be within 20 points now, and Trump's going to do fine in the suburbs in November. No. It's one special election, guys. Calm down, look at this. It's cool to look at, and analyzing it's still pretty interesting. And I'll do that in this video. I'm not going to make this video just to dunk on people who think this is a game changer, but it's not. It's really not, guys. So, I think we can talk about this race now. I guess now that I've gotten that out of the way, because I do really want to kind of get to the point here. But yeah, so you can draw minor conclusions from this, but if the conclusion you're drawing here is that the Democrats are saved in the midterms, you'll be in you'll be in for a bit of a surprise on election day because this midterm still not going to be very fun for the Democrats. Like it's still going to be a midterm in which the Democratic Party won't do very well, especially compared to 2020 or 2018. So let's just talk about the backdrop of this election. So again, I think it's fair to say that the circumstances here weren't really great for the Republican Party. Like when you look at the incumbent they had was Jeff Fortenberry, and Fortenberry he resigned because I think he was getting investigated by the FBI at the time, so he resigned. And I think he was indicted actually. So he's in a lot of places right now, but Congress is certainly not one of them. And the Republicans, they had to nominate someone to fill his seat because they weren't just going to go to the Democrats. So a special election between Mike Flood and Patty Pansing Brooks. Flood I don't really know about. Oh no, it says here. Thanks, New York Times. He's a state senator. I knew Patty Pansing Brooks was a state senator from Lancaster County, which is where Omaha or what Lincoln is. So I guess Mike Flood's also state senator. So he'll be going to Congress. So congrats to Mike Flood. But he'll be taking Fortenberry's seat. And I think that, like the fact that the GOP had a scandal-plagued incumbent didn't help. And also, you got to remember that, this election happened 4 days after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. And regardless of what you think of that, I think from a perspective of, issues, I guess, if you're a Republican, it was good because, most Republicans are pro-life. Not all of them. I know pro-choice Republicans, but, the Republican Party itself is a pro-life party. And they were yeah, good job, Supreme Court. Very, very well done, right? But I think you can have opinions and be unbiased, right? Obviously, that's what I'm trying to do here. But I think it's fair to say that the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade was, I think, a win for pro-life Republicans, but it was not a win for Republican candidates who are running competitive House or Senate races because the overall majority of Americans are pro-choice. At worst, it's 50% of Americans are pro-choice. At best, it's, I think, 67% of Americans are pro-choice. The number's probably in between. If I had to guess, it's probably 55, 60% of Americans are pro-choice, but it's still a majority no matter how you slice it. And so, when you have a policy, a big headline that just happened 4 days ago and it hurts the Republicans, I think there'll be some boost to Democratic enthusiasm. And so to me, this is kind of a very small sample size of what could happen, right? If things don't go the GOP's way by November. Because I think right now Democrats have a lot of energy. Jeff Fortenberry wasn't really that good of he wasn't a good influence for this GOP in this area. And I think people were just kind of fed up. And so a lot of, I think, Democrats had a turnout boost. The only county that voted blue here is Lancaster County, which is where Lincoln is. And obviously in the 2020 election, it cast about 60% of the votes in this district. This time around, I think it cast a 65. So there was a big turnout increase, and relative to the rest of the district, Lancaster County had a turnout increase. And you can say it's Roe v. Wade, you can say it's the fact that Patty Pansing Brooks was from this district, but I think it's just the more of a mix of those things. So the Democrats had a good night here. Don't get me wrong, but I think you have to take everything into account here. So I guess storyline should be Democrats. Good night in Nebraska. They overperformed. They did a good job here, I guess. So Patty Pansing, honestly, I'll give it to Patty Pansing Brooks. Okay, I think she's running for the November elections. That'll be interesting. I don't think she'll win, but I'll watch it. But I mean, I think it's fair to say that she ran quite the campaign here because it's a Trump plus 11 seat. And when most Democrats have been underperforming in special elections, she overperformed Biden. She only lost by, she lost by under 5% in a seat where Biden lost by 11. And, it's not easy to do that when you're not really funded. Obviously the Democrats didn't really give her a ton of money. So I guess good on her for running quite the campaign here. And I think good on, Mike Flood, I guess, for winning the race and bringing it home for the GOP, even though it was a subpar performance. So I think that'll wrap it up for this video. But yeah, I mean, if you want to take away, I'll give it to you here. The Nebraska Democratic Party had a good night. I think there is certainly an enthusiasm bump we're seeing all across the country for Democrats. But again, one special election. Don't extrapolate. Just look at it, observe, and just see what the next one gives you. So That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, comment what you think, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.